Now, yes, we are broadcasting now. So we haven't got anybody here. Oh yeah, but now we have. So we have some attendees. Good afternoon, Nigel. Hello, Judy. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, James. Welcome. Hello, Vanessa. Hi, Claire. Come on in. Get yourself settled. If you haven't got a drink, get one. Mr. Harvey. Good afternoon, Mr. Harvey. Hello, Angela. Just to let you guys know, we are recording. I think you probably expected us to do that anyway, but just to let you know, we'll keep the language clean, of course. Hello, Ryan. Hi, Roderick. I think I've welcomed everybody. If I haven't said your name, I'm very sorry. Okay, I think in the interest of time, somebody else has just joined. Hello, Alex. How are you doing, Alex? So in the interest of time, I know everybody's given up their time on a Thursday wet afternoon. Well, it is where I am. We will get stuck straight in. I'm going to hand over now that you all know that we're recording. Hello, Caroline. I'm going to hand over now to Chris, our host with the most, and he's going to open up the session for us.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, Rachel. Wow, hello. So, hi, everyone. Yeah, so I'm Chris from Fliplet, and I'll explain a little bit about Fliplet later on, but not for now. So, yeah, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it's the end of probably another busy day, and if, like me, it's a busy day of Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams calls all day. So today's session is a collaborative event, should bring together what we believe are the core pillars of focus for law firms as we prepare to exit what can only be described as a very tricky 2020 and hopefully gear up for a bit of a different and brighter 2021. So covering 4 areas, which is going to be strategy in your firm, leadership and people, business development, and then finally from myself at the end, leveraging technology. So it's our aim to be a bit pacey with the content, giving you the time to ask questions and get some answers. So please do feel free to use the chat functionality along the bottom of your Zoom screen for the chat, and we'll make sure they're answered at the end of the session. So you might also be working through some challenges brought on by the pandemic, which I'm sure you know is going on and changing all the time, it seems. You might be using the pandemic as an opportunity to rethink some of your strategies and processes. And you might also be looking for some ideas and inspiration about what other firms are thinking about right now. So either way, we hope you'll find this session really useful, quite insightful, and well worth the hour of your time that you've given up to be here. So last time we ran an event like this, there was lots of discussion at the end. So we've also decided to tag on 30 minutes for networking and Q&A at the end for you. So please do stick around. We'll certainly be sticking around for a chat when we've finished. So let's crack on with our first speaker for today, who is Viv Williams. So let me tell you a little bit about Viv. So Viv is Consulting Director at Symphony Legal. He's a leading consultant to law firms on the topics of strategy, management, practice, development and marketing. Viv is currently Non-Executive Director and Chairman of AWH Solicitors, who are a private equity-backed consolidator of personal injury firms, Consulting Director of Symphony Legal, Director of Ampersand, a law firm merger business that has experience of merging over 150 law firms. So as you can see, Viv's experience as a managing director and everything else, Viv's experience as a managing director of 2 floated PLC companies adds a new dimension to law firms. He also has the experience necessary to provide an invaluable practical management insight that applies to all professional firms. He's a specialist in strategy, merger and acquisition, and lean management theory, helping law firms to evolve. Also provides the vision and inspiration for law firms to become more corporate. And by applying corporate governance to a modern law firm, Viv helps them to improve their management systems and increase profitability. That's some introduction. Viv, over to you.
This is where it all goes wrong, of course.
After that intro, Viv, it can't.
Right. I think I'm here and ready to go. So,
perfect.
I'm obviously what I'm thinking about is what is the future for legal services, and I think we have to think very carefully about what that future is. I'm probably like the rest of you, having Teams and Zoom calls with managing partners of a variety of firms every day about what their future strategy is. So what I thought we'd do is to look at where we are now which is obviously we understand there's continued uncertainty with the COVID position. And that's even getting worse in certain parts of the country, as we've seen, certain parts of the Northwest, and I think it's coming into London as well. As the mayor is talking about at half term, maybe having a short-term closure. So it's not going away for the short term. What I've been occupied with in this last week, I'm sorry to say, is professional indemnity renewals. And I've never seen a season like it. I've seen premiums rising in lots of firms from anywhere from 25% to 50%. The worst I've seen is 400% increase, admittedly on a conveyancing business. But we've got certain insurers who do not want to be insuring law firms. And one of the firms I've been talking to and helping, their current insurer is QBE, and QBE have actually said to them, we'll only insure you if you give us personal guarantees to cover the cost of runoff. And their premium was 70-odd thousand, cost of runoff, 160,000 personal guarantees. So needless to say, they're not going to do it. They're going to say, well, why would we put our houses on the line when we've got such uncertainty going forward? So I always thought the professional indemnity would be a trigger point. And I think that's something we need to think about. There will be other trigger points that will happen in the next 12 months or so. And that will be things like deferred VAT in November, solicitor tax in January, and then the repayment of the loans we've taken out, let alone the recession that we're probably facing. So I think what we've seen, and what we've seen quite a lot of, with larger firms as well as small, is if you've got a high salaried employee, quite often they've been made redundant already. I'm talking about HR directors, business development, marketing, and in some cases, financial directors have been made redundant very early on. And lots of the conversations I'm having is, as furlough ends, do we start to see redundancies in fee earners and support staff? So I think what we're seeing is continued consolidation. Even this last weekend, I've been helping a law firm that's got problems with reserves against insurance policy. We've acknowledged that they have to do something different. So we're going through an administration process, and I've been finding them acquirers, which we have to get done by the end of October, because that's when they fall into the, can't take on new business at the end of October if you haven't got insurance. So we're also looking at the new models, and I'm starting to see a lot of interest in growth in the nexus of this world who've come into the marketplace. And there's new people leaving firms who've been made redundant and joining others. And that is happening all over the place. So I've seen a tremendous growth in that area. So having the skills that we're going to talk about today is going to be part and parcel of what they need to do. And certainly we're seeing the processing of volume services, anything that can be processed is big. And I think we're going to see the real challenges in dealing with those process services. So moving on to, we still have a succession challenge. Many of the people, and I'll give you an example, 2 equity partner firm, both partners in their late 60s, 68, 69, PI premium at the moment was 46,000, renewal for the 1st of October today, 174,000. And my argument with them both was, are you really going to pay runoff now for 150,000 or wait till next year when it's 500,000? And when you're 69 years old, do you really want that? So I think we've got a lot of firms thinking about exiting now. So I suspect we'll see a lot of people on the market. I think we'll see lots of opportunities out there, as well as some threats. The Gazette was talking a few weeks ago about 60% of the high street closing. I'm not sure I agree with that, but we know that legal aid firms are struggling because they can't even get into the courts. And we know that from the PI clean neg market, that as of next April, their business has gone for anything to do with fast track RTA work. And we've seen some secondary funders that normally would be in our space, more or less backing out of the market because they can't make it work. So we still have that crisis that we're facing. So what are your options? Well, there's still value in incorporating a business. If you're an LLP or a partnership, there is value in incorporating where the revenue will accept goodwill on the balance sheet. And we can convert that goodwill into a director's loan account, and you can draw that money down without paying any tax. So there's still value in the right circumstances, usually when you've got younger lawyers who would like to join the partnership, but they're not going to become a partner, they'll become a director of a limited company. We've looked very closely at separate structures and regulators, and I've been advising people this year and last year about moving their conveyancing business into a CLC regulated business. 12 firms on the 1st of July couldn't get any insurance whatsoever, and they were CLC regulated. So I've rethought that strategy, and I think that maybe now we need to look very different at the property sector, because it's certainly becoming more difficult. Most conveyancers are very busy at the moment, and I think they're too busy to, in fact, do some of the work that they're dealing with because of the latent demand from March, and the stamp duty holiday that we've got till next March. But finding a buyer is not easy, and it's making sure that if you are thinking about the strategy for the future, how do you deal with it? Where do you go? And where do you get the most maximum value for what you've built up over many years? So it's going to be tough finding buyers, and I think if we do see a large number fail this month, then we could well see there'll be more and more sellers on the market. You can buy your own firm, it's quite rare. This is where the young people will effectively acquire the firm from the exiting partners. I've had a few of that. And part of the strategy really is to think, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy, sell, or merge your practice? That's part of the strategy and thinking project. And the last part, which is the one we all want to avoid, is a controlled closure and breakup of the practice. That's that. So what can be done? Well, for many, I'm sorry to say, I think it's too late. I think many firms will fall into the trap of closure over the next few months, maybe 6 months, 12 months, who knows. I've often talked about regulatory mapping your practice. So taking out of what can be, doesn't have to be regulated by the SRA or your regulator, and look at a separate business, limited company, where your HR, your employment, non-regulated services can sit. That can reduce your PI premium considerably. And think about what structure and regulators you want. And what we're seeing in some firms is that they've got no real value in the practice, but they can sell a will bank. The will bank can be cleansed, marketed to, and the agreement with most people who are doing this is that they will pay an annuity over a 10-year period. And I think there's also work now in the fast track RTA work, where we've seen people come into that space. They'll take on the department from the firm and split the proceeds when those cases conclude 50-50. So there are ways of dealing with certain parts of the business. And I think we are seeing partners and fee earners going into these new models in their droves, and that could probably continue. So the way that I'm seeing, I think we'll see lots of insolvency, I'm afraid. And I think the pre-pack, which is frowned upon by some, will be a model for many to actually get out of the business. There's no doubt that technology is the key, so clients have taken control. Whereas in the past, you might say to the client, I expect you in the office at 10 o'clock on Tuesday to go through these documents. The client's now saying, I'll see you on Zoom at 7 o'clock on Friday. It's a complete change of emphasis. And I think those changing cultures within practices, and I speak to many firms of certain size with 100 to up to 500 and private equity-backed businesses, where they're now changing their cultures completely because they've trusted their staff who can work from home. So they've changed their whole emphasis about technology and whether they need offices. And I think that's a massive change in most city law firms. They're thinking completely differently about how they structure their business going forward. Artificial intelligence, without question, will come into play for many of the services we're talking about. And I think offshoring, where you haven't got support staff left and found they've been working from home, there may be an opportunity to offshore and use some of business process outsourcing, data cleansing, this type of stuff, and support can be done offshore at a fraction of the cost of the UK. Now, you may argue there's a moral and ethical question there because people are out of work in the UK, but bizarrely, the type of work we're talking of, nobody wants to do it. And I think people have changed their priorities in the way they buy legal services, and I think we have to adapt to that. Their demands are very different, and they're looking very carefully about what they can get hold of online, and I think technology will be, without question, part of the future of the modern law firm that survives this. You need a strategy for each department. I won't go through them all. Every single department needs to have a clear vision and strategy about what it's doing and how it's doing it. And that's where people like me help firms, because we might look at some and say, to be honest with you, this department's not working. You're not making any profits. And for the foreseeable future, you can't afford to invest in structures to make it different. So look at everything you do and decide on which part works, which part doesn't work. And there's some really tough decisions to make. So invest in apps. And I'm not going to spoil Fliplet's thunder, but it's got to be the way forward, both for dealing with people and with clients. And obviously, you can't afford not to focus on sales. I know it's been a dirty word in legal practices for many years, But reality is we've got to learn how to sell services in a different way. And I think that's part and parcel of what we're doing. So look at what you do as a business. There's a certain part of it in this pie chart showing you what's vital, which is all about legal advice, customer contact, and business development. Everything else we can offshore, outsource, do something else with it to reduce the costs and take that out of your regulated part of the business. And that's really how I see the future, is it's addressing each department, dealing with it clinically and taking some tough decisions. Because I'm afraid that if you've all got your PI renewals in place, fantastic. I'm sure that many others out there today that haven't. So I'm sorry if I'm a bit of a doom and gloom merchant. It's not intended to be. I think there's huge opportunities out there, but unfortunately, that's the way of the world at the moment. So I hope you take some value from the back of that.
Thanks, Viv. I don't think that was all doom and gloom. I was worried at the start, but you got some good positive notes in there. A couple of questions, if you don't mind, just while we're still on the subject. One from me, first of all. You've had a fantastic career, and your knowledge and experience is vast. Do you think this is the most unique time we've seen in the legal industry?
Absolutely, without question. I've never seen anything. I've never seen a PI season like this for 20 years. I have never seen law firms really challenging and questioning where they're going and what they're doing. And I have these calls, as I say, every day, from 2 equity partner conveyancing firms to 200 employees. And yet there's still appetite out there with private equity to go and purchase and acquire other law firms. So it's tough, but it's really structuring things in a very different way. It's probably the catalyst that we've needed for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm frank, and I think it's been coming, but it's actually here now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right. Thank you for the answer. I'll ask you one more. We've got a couple more questions, but we'll save some of them for the end. But just ask you one more. Is this a problem that you see as facing the smallest firms alone or across the board?
Well, if I say to you that the 8 partner practice that I put into admin over the weekend was turning over nearly 6 million. So no, it's not the small ones. There's some big ones out there and mid-sized ones. Their challenges are all the same. They're just bigger, and they have to deal with them differently. So all the things I've said about departmentally looking at what you've got, I think that's so crucial, and that applies to big firms, mid-sized firms, and unfortunately small ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thank you, Viv. Thank you very much. We've got some more questions coming in, so we'll ask you those at the end of the session. So let's move on to our second speaker today. So Robert Camp. Robert is the director of Robert Camp Consulting. However, until May 2019, Robert was managing partner at Stevens Scown, a role he held for over 8 years. He then stepped down. Sorry, excuse me, just 1 second. He then stepped down to take up a new role of Director of Strategic Innovation. Being a visionary leader of a traditional professional services firm has been challenging, but Robert's infectious enthusiasm and clear vision has ensured change in the firm's culture and brand, and brand has happened over a relatively short period of time. Robert's new role also focuses on the customer experience, looking outside the legal sector and embracing new and exciting ways of delivering traditional legal services. He also mentors and coaches individuals, both within the firm and externally. I'll probably be calling Robert about that after the webinar. So over to you, Robert, for your session.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Viv. 2 words that I pulled out of your part, Viv, was legal sector is in a period of turmoil and change. Well, I think you are right. I've never seen anything like it, and I can't see it changing quickly either. So when you've got turmoil and change, what you need is good leadership. So I'm going to talk a bit about leadership and how I think leaders can embrace this change. Now, you were a bit doom and gloom, but for me, change is not always easy in normal times. But for me, the experience has given us the opportunity to re-envisage the way we work. And one of the things I'm trying to do is, people call it, let's get back to the old normal or the new normal. I prefer to call it the exciting future, because I think those firms that see this as an opportunity to embrace some of the change that's happened, to look for new opportunities, it can be an exciting future, especially when you factor in the issues facing so many other firms, which is terrible for the profession. So many good firms are going to struggle. But you've got to keep your eye on the future, not looking back. Thanks, Chris, for the introduction. Just for those who don't know me, I took over Stephen Scone, managing partner, 2009-10 actually. I couldn't get this all on one slide. At that time, we were 9.6 million. When I stepped down, 2019, we were 20 million. But more importantly, because turnover, as we all know, is vanity, we'd also doubled the profit. And we doubled in size of headcount. Few innovative things that we created during my tenure. We put in place Sconership, our employee ownership scheme, which was the first law firm to do such a thing. And we're now actually advising quite a few law firms who are looking to do something similar. And numerous awards, I won't go through them all, but Sunday Times Best Companies to Work for 6 years running. Highlight was getting to number 12 in 1 year. So what about where we are? This was actually a slide I put up at our partners conference this time last year. So I didn't create it, but the person who did was clearly forecasting the future. So it was looking at the evolution of the employee. I think now you'd say the revolution of the employee, because evolution, of course, takes time. I'll just pick out a few. Work, so past, it was work 9 to 5, future, work anytime, work in a corporate office, work anywhere. I won't go through the list, and I know the slides are going to be shared afterwards, so you can pick up the more detail. But this was showing what people thought the evolution of the employee would be over a period of time. And of course, when you look at change as a leader, we're all used to the change curve. This is just a classic change curve that shows how everybody in the team or the organization is dealing with the change that you're trying to implement. And you've got the anxiety, the happiness, the guilt, the threats, depression, hostility. But as a leader, what you're trying to do is move everybody, wherever they are on that change curve, to the right-hand side. And then you've created the change you want. But actually that change curve has been thrown out the window, because what happened on the 8 p.m. on the 23rd of March, 2020, we were all told we couldn't go back to our usual place of work. Now, the legal profession loves change. Not. Legal profession is actually quite averse to change. We like to think things through, we like to consider things, we like to set up project groups, we like to discuss it. Partnerships love to discuss it more and more times over and over again, and then the only decision they'll come to is let's not embrace change. Well, as a profession, we all had to embrace change because we were told to do so by the government. So if I then go back to the change curve, this is my COVID change curve. So you'll see that the horizontal axis has been shortened dramatically. Previously, when you were leading a team through change, that could be months, it could actually even be years. This time, the change was days. It wasn't even weeks. We had to change completely the way we worked within days. The issue is, though, whilst we got everybody across to the right-hand side of the change curve, you could not say that everybody had accepted that change. People were still and are still in denial, anger, exploring, and acceptance. So all the usual emotions of the classic change curve are still there, even though everybody had to work remotely. And as a leader, you need to recognize that, because whilst your workforce and employees have moved to things like remote working, all of them will be experiencing different emotional values about what has happened. So the traditional emotions of the change curve are correct, even though we've accelerated getting to where we want to. So for thinking about the exciting future, how do we make it work? How do we embrace some of the exciting future? Well, I've got stop. Let's stop doing some of the stuff that we previously did that actually caused frustrations, not just to our customers and clients, but also to the people who work for us. This gave us a great opportunity to think about things that we did because we always did them. And lawyers love precedent. You know, the law is based on precedent. That's great when you're determining a legal issue. It's not so great when you're looking at how to change your office or your working practices, because precedent just actually stifles any innovative change. A great stop for me, and I've heard it from a lot of firms, is they have stopped giving partners printers. You may smile, but so many law firms' partners would insist on having their own printer right next to the desk because that's the only way they could work. Well, this COVID and the lockdown gave a great opportunity for leaders to show that partners didn't need printers. Don't go back. Don't give them their printers back when you go back into the offices. Start doing some new stuff. Now, a great one to start is the recruitment market. We're all working remotely. So if I'm managing partner of Stephen Scone in Exeter, why do I need all my lawyers within a 15, 20 mile radius of Exeter? Why do I need all my support staff within a 15 to 20 mile radius of Exeter? Start looking at opportunities, not just in employment, but also marketing and BD. You know, our market now is no longer geographically constrained. People are used to Zooming, as Viv said, and they're used to Zooming on their terms. Start embracing that the client is more important than the working practices. Start allowing your staff to have flexibility in the way they work. And then accelerate the good stuff, the really good stuff, accelerate it. Don't set up a project group to discuss something that you found is really working to make sure it's actually going to work. Just go for it. As a leader, be much more agile, be prepared to take risks. Again, lawyers are incredibly good at advising clients on the commercial risks when they're acting for a client. But we are so risk averse when it comes to our own business. So just do it, just try it. If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. After all, we have been through nearly the end of the world and we're still all here. So accelerate the good stuff, really embrace it and push through the change. For me though, the biggest thing when it comes to leadership is the command and control. Old school style has gone. Lawyers, usually hierarchical, run by a few partners, command and control, do as I say, and do it in that way. That's gone for me. Those firms that try and go back to command and control are toast. They deserve to be toast as well. You've got to go to empowerment. It's empowerment. We've got to empower our staff. We had to empower our staff once they started working from home because we couldn't control them in the usual ways. We had to start letting them write blogs and do videos on LinkedIn rather than saying everything had to go through the corporate message of the marketing team. But empowerment brings responsibility. If you're going to empower people, they have to understand their roles and responsibility to you by giving them that power. It's not just delegation or abdication. You actually have to create a structure where you empower somebody to do something, give them the tools to enable them to do it, but then have the expectation that they will do it. We need to start measuring outputs, not inputs. We love the 6-minute unit. That is our measurement. That is an input. It's not an output. If a good example, support staff member, you say to somebody, look, this is really urgent. It needs to be out by 11 o'clock. So they do it. But the rest of your work doesn't actually need to be done until the following day. Historically, we'd have made the person stay until 5:15 doing the work. What difference does it make is actually if they decide in the afternoon they're going to have some time with their kids, and then at 8 o'clock, they log back on, do the work, and it's all there by 8 o'clock in the morning for you to check. Outputs, not inputs. The positive deviance. This was the typical hierarchy in a law firm. Leadership made decisions, middle management implemented them, and the front line carried out those decisions. It's all been turned on its head. Frontline workers, i.e. the experts in what they do, should have a say in how it's done. Listen to them. The middle management should then support those ideas, and leaders should create the space and environment for those ideas to happen. It's a massive turnaround. It's a 180-degree turnaround from the usual way of managing and leading, but it is the way forward. What about the how? Well, I just love this. The way this is going to work for enlightened firms and enlightened leaders: embrace technology, wow your customer, and create the ultimate workplace. Now, I know Rachel and Chris will talk about the first 2 bullet points. but create the ultimate workplace. And when you're looking at everything that's happened, this is just a simple matrix that I created using the stop, start, and accelerate. Just go through the list, like work anywhere, accelerate it. Impact massively high, both for clients and your staff. Very low cost. We've all incurred the cost already. Use any device. Why limit people to one device when you've got people who love Apple and you've got people who love Microsoft? If you're looking at recruitment and somebody hears that you don't use Apple, they're not going to work for your firm if they're a true Apple geek. Again, low cost, high impact. It's a very simple way of just working out actually what you should be doing. And a lot of this is cheap and low hanging fruit. And then look at remote working. What does it mean? Less commuting, which can make work more accessible for people with disabilities. Something that the legal profession has not been good at. The flexibility can be particularly helpful for single parents and caregivers, as well as a very positive way in continuing to engage with employees on maternity leave. Ask your maternity leavers, would they like to do 2 hours of work, 2 or 3 evenings a week? I'm sure they'll say yes. It will keep their skills up. It will allow them to interact with colleagues and with clients. And then the office environment. Yes, some of it will be working from home, but we still need to have that collegiate part of working together in an office. But don't just expect your staff to come back, put their headphones in, work 9 to 5, doing what they could do at home. Let them do that at home. And when you bring them into the office, create that atmosphere for learning together, speaking to each other, collaborating, innovating, having new ideas. Don't use the office as the workplace as we knew it. Embrace the human digital. I used this phrase about 6 years ago at Stephen Scone. It's got to be human. Most of our clients want that human touch, that human relationship, but they expect our services to be slick. They're used to Amazon. They're used to Netflix. The future is fast. Expectations are increasing. Understand the human drivers, emotions, wants, needs, desires, and expectations, and embrace them. And finally, if you get it right, you get employer experience. You get that right, multiply it by customer experience, and it gives you increased revenue. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Robert. I've got about 100 questions and I can't answer them all now, clearly, so we need to talk after. Just one I'm going to throw at you just to start with is, that's come in actually, is you mentioned that lawyers don't like change. Partners tend to be the worst. That's not my opinion. And I say that as a partner. There you go. Thank you, James. How do you get partnership to buy into these changes then?
Yeah, that is a great question, but I've spoken to a couple of managing partners about this. What I would suggest is you use COVID and you say, we're going to pilot something. So I had an interesting conversation with a partner who had a team leader who was really struggling with remote team leading. But actually he was also struggling with reconnecting with his clients. A very, very good lawyer, very good biller. So I said to the managing partner, why don't you just say to that individual, look, for the next 6 months, management will take over managing your team and you concentrate on rebuilding your client base. No politics there, because you couldn't appoint somebody within the team because then you get all the politics and why have they been appointed, et cetera, et cetera. So bring it back centrally. And then I said, I can guarantee at the end of the 6 months, that partner will say, I don't want that role back. So anything that you can sort of use COVID as a way of embedding the change, I think will help change. If you say to people, we're going to do this and this is going to be it forever, then you're going to have pushback from partners. But if you say, look, we're still in a massive period of uncertainty and turmoil for the next 6 months, let's just work like this. For the next 6 months, let's just empower 2 of your team to do a weekly blog on LinkedIn. We're not going to give them all the marketing responsibility, but just let's see how it works. So I would recommend short changes tied to COVID, but actually a way of just embedding the change over that period.
Brilliant. Great approach. I'll save my questions for you for later, Robert. I'll leave the rest for now. So on to our third speaker. So Rachel Howarth. Rachel is Managing Director at Momentum Southwest, has a 25-year background in sales and leadership, spending 17 years within the automotive industry with Auto Trader in a variety of roles. And during her time with Auto Trader, Rachel achieved budgets of £97 million, led a UK-wide team of 60 staff, and led a number of high-profile projects ahead of the successful company float. In 2016, Rachel started her own training and mentoring company, Momentum Southwest, and now leads a team of trainers who specialise in sales, client service, communications and leadership. The company works with a number of large Southwest employers to deliver bespoke staff training and development programmes. Rachel's high energy approach and client-centric mindset always gets audiences bought in and engaged in the sessions they're attending. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy Rachel's session. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's always a bit cringe, isn't it, listening to your own introduction? But you said it very well. Thank you. Made me sound quite clever. I'm a bit worried though, Robert, after your presentation, because I am an Apple geek and my printer is right there behind me. So yeah, I'm caught out. So we called this session "How to Make Your Clients Fall in Love with Your Firm." And so I wanted to just pose the question, first of all, are love and law even a good fit together? Do they even go together? I would suggest that they do, because with love comes loyalty. My husband's outside, so I've got to say that. But with love comes loyalty. And what we really want to recognize with any legal requirement that anybody has at any point in their life, it's usually fueled by emotion. We don't go to see a lawyer to have a nice chat and talk about the weather. We go when we have a problem. We go when we're fueled by emotion. And so for that reason, I do think that it's relevant to think about that high emotional state that we're in when we need a lawyer being swung the other way, and that we can fuel love and loyalty and high emotion in the positive end of things. So I thought it was quite a nice tie-in to think about love and loyalty and how we might make our clients feel that way. I guess what that does lead to is that fundamental question that we know that sales and business development is more successful when we've got the know, like and trust factor. And just the same as love, can it be built that quickly? Yeah, it's a big debate, isn't it? Can you fall in love overnight? Can trust be built overnight? Can you really win over a client and win their trust in, you know, the first meeting? So I'm going to explore that in this session. So our expectations are set by the highest bar. At the moment, if you look at buyer behavior, our expectations are set when it comes to service by the likes of John Lewis. When it comes to our expectations of speed and convenience, our expectations are set by Amazon. We don't really consider that our local corner shop can't be Amazon. We don't really consider that the other, you know, small shop that sells little electricals or our stationery or the other smaller things that we want to buy, we don't consider that they can't operate like John Lewis for service. We just expect it because that is how we buy in our lives now. The internet has given way to that. So we need to remember that consumers and our legal buyers, our future buyers in our law firms, their expectations are high right from the word go, right from the beginning. And some stats that I found that are fairly recent stats about the way that UK consumers buy. On average now, the UK consumer spends 6 hours a day online across work and personal life. 86% of them say that it's their first stop when they're looking to find a product or service. And 81% of those people say that they go on to buy. So that's a pretty good conversion rate. Of those people, 59% say that price is a factor for them. It's not the only factor, but it is a factor. 35% of UK consumers say that they do compare, they do price compare. And 65% do admit to being loyal. Now, that's the only one for me that's got a question mark over it, because if they were that loyal, why are 86% going online to shop? So they're not my stats, but I like to find, little nuances in stats, but that would be my question for the person who pulled them together. And so bearing in mind that on average, the average person visits a lawyer maybe 7 to 8 times in their whole life cycle, we don't want to just win one piece of work, do we? We want to win all of the pieces of work, and we want to win that loyalty so that we get referrals across family members and friends, business colleagues, anybody that's in that high level state of emotion that we're in when we need a lawyer. First thing we might do, yes, 86% might go to the internet, but I tell you what, there's a lot of people that wouldn't. There's a lot of people in that high state of emotion would ask a friend or a colleague or somebody that they trust. So we need to be very mindful of that in the buying process, in the choice process. The big question, though, I think comes when we think about price and the usual strategic triangle of price, quality, and service. I'm going to go into why I think the triangle's become a square in a minute, but we do forgive price when the other 2 points of the triangle are present. So what I mean by that is, if our expectations for quality are set by John Lewis, and our expectations for speed of service and convenience are set by Amazon, under what circumstances would we overlook high price? It would be when those other 2 things are present, when service is obvious, when convenience and credentials are obvious. And so what I would say, if you're sat there thinking, well, I don't want my buyers going online to look for LPA. I don't want my buyers going online looking for conveyancing. We know that's probably the most price sensitive service a law firm can sell. The only time that your future buyers are going to overlook the fact that you aren't a pilot high, sell it cheap online law firm, and actually you sell quality at the highest price points, is to recognize that people will forgive high price points when quality and service and credentials are obvious. So that brings me back to why am I saying that the 3-point triangle of strategy has now become a square? And that's because of this 4th point, and that is purpose is the new digital. That's a question posed by Deloitte recently. And what we mean by purpose isn't necessarily that your board are also trustees of a charity or that you do an annual charity donation. It's not necessarily about that. I think it's about, can you demonstrate passion? Can you demonstrate that a firm is not just about profits and turnover and all the things, all the pillars of business that one might expect? Can you demonstrate that purpose runs deeper than profits? Can you demonstrate an alignment of people's values and vision towards a purpose higher than that of the firm? And so I do believe that, for the same reason that we waved goodbye to household names like Woolworths, who didn't keep up with a digital transformation, there is a purpose transformation going on right now. And I think the pandemic has accelerated that even further. We need to show we care. And however you can do that in your firm, I think will stand you in good stead for your business development. So that brings me on to a lovely long diagram of customer journey, the client experience. If you need to demonstrate credentials and convenience and service and purpose and all those things, at what point in your client journey can you do that? Well, the answer for me is at all points. At all points, at the lead gen point, at the income and inquiry point, at the initial meeting point, at all the points. And only when you get to the end successfully can you get that love and loyalty that I talked about in the beginning. And so this client experience, this journey, we could say we want to just go start to finish as fast as possible. And that's one strategy. But actually that's only required if somebody's in a hurry. And so the reason that they've called the law firm in the first place is because they're in a hurry. They have a deadline. If they're not in a hurry, you can maybe make the process take a little longer and go into a little bit more depth. But the fundamental thing in all business development is about conversion. It's about successfully moving the person, your future buyer, from point 1 to point 2 to point 3 to point 4. And your client journey may look slightly different to this. You might have an online part to it. You might have a face-to-face part to it. You might give a free consultation. You might not. But nonetheless, most client journeys look something like this. And maybe because of COVID, the marketing budget has been cut slightly, or maybe completely. And so the lead generation phase is a little bit harder at the moment because we've got maybe less money to spend on lead generation, but all the more reason why the conversion needs to be great. The problem is with a number of law firms who I've worked with on business development training, the client journey doesn't look as clean and smooth as what I have here. It looks more like this. It looks more like we spend a lot of money on marketing, in comes the inquiry, and it lands possibly with reception. It might get lost in a confusing call tree. It might get as far as a secretary. If the client's really lucky, it will get to the lawyer. It may result in a diarized booking, whether that's a Zoom call now or some other meeting. But the hope is that we will get to a position where a fee earner can have that initial meeting with some degree of success. My fear is that the remote working that we're in, the movement around of our technology, our systems, our printers, Robert, all the changes that we've had to go through in making sure that our staff can operate their role has meant that this system is just slightly a bit more confused than it possibly needs to be. And so my suggestion would be that now is a great time to review your own firm's client journey and try to make it as smooth and seamless as possible. Try to take out unnecessary steps. Try to make sure that the love and loyalty factor is in there and that you're giving people those 4 points of that triangle. There are 4 points of the square, 3 points if you see it as a triangle, but you have got the opportunity to demonstrate purpose. You have got the opportunity to demonstrate service like John Lewis, convenience like Amazon. And if you do that really well, your high price point becomes overlooked, because really what we're looking for is reassurance. People who buy in high levels of emotion need reassurance. So hopefully your client journey doesn't look like that. And I've just made that up to make a point on a 5 o'clock in the afternoon webinar just for a bit of humor. But maybe it does look something like that some days. I don't know. You can be the judge. So from a business development point of view, I did not hit £97 million worth of revenue in my past without focusing on pipeline and a few numbers. And the numbers never lie. It made me laugh, Robert, when you said focus on output, not input, because my slide says focus on input, not output. So maybe we can talk about that at the end. Well, the reason that I say that is because when a firm says, or a marketing department says, we need more leads, we need to make more money, we need to convert more fees, we can shout that as loud as we want from the rooftops, but shouting that doesn't bring it in. Shouting that doesn't make it happen. Focusing on all those little steps, all those inputs, is what makes a successful business development process. So making sure the process is good, making sure the way we answer the call is good, making sure our replies to emails are good, making sure we use our CRM, making sure that actually when we do use our CRM, that we can have one single version of truth about our clients or future clients where we can assess our conversion rate. So in this example, for every 10 leads generated, you know that you can convert 25% of all of the leads that come into your firm. That gives you confidence to start spending marketing budget again, because now you know that you're going to convert 25% of all the inquiries that you generate. So you become a little bit more comfortable and reassured about spending marketing budget. So yeah, focus on the inputs, not the outputs. Okay, and just to finish off, some quick wins, okay? So, quick win is just make sure that you've got an effective client journey. Whatever that looks like for your firm, make sure that it is effective. And when I say effective, I mean that it converts. One thing that's really required at the moment is to train staff on your value proposition. Make sure that they know what the clear buying motivations are right now, what's relevant. If you want to break that down into legal discipline, that will make it even better. But now is a great time to train staff on value proposition. you really do need to assess your conversion rate of your initial meeting. What is your conversion rate? Is it 25%? Is it 33? Could it be 50? You know, is it 1 in 2, 3 or 4? Have a review of recent numbers and make sure that that you're optimizing that as far as you possibly can. One suggestion I would always give to clients is to give the client some control. So rather than allow that round the circle thing going on of, I want to speak to somebody, oh, they're not available, I'll send us an email, I'll call you back. Really, that's just taking up everybody's valuable time. Use an online diary scheduler and allow the client to have some control. And I know that most lawyers would say, you're not going to get into my diary, I control my diary. Well, yes, you can still control your diary. All you need to do is block out an hour at the end of every day or a half an hour in the morning. And if no calls get booked in, that's great. You win time back in your day. It's a positive. But by just having that time locked out, that allows your clients, your future buyers, your future fees to feel that they've got some control, which gives them that feeling of service and credibility. So if you're not using an online scheduler, I would definitely suggest that that is a quick win. And the last one there is demonstrate purpose. If you're not doing anything right now to demonstrate purpose, now is a great time to do that, because, you know, with the pandemic, we are all very much leading with our heart and not our head. So yeah, now is a good time to demonstrate purpose. And just as a side note, I'm not opening a pet shop. I'm looking for guinea pigs. So I'm running some business development training, and I'm looking for cohort 1 people to put their hand up and say, I have a lawyer, or I have some support teams, or people that would benefit from having a 4-week program of business development training. So if that's you and you'd like to have a chat, please do let me know. I just quite like the picture of the guinea pig, to be honest. But that's it from me. Thank you very much. And I will stop sharing my screen now in case we've had any questions.
There's nothing wrong with cute animal pictures. I'll save the question in the interest of time. I'll save the question in, but a couple of observations from me there, Rachel, if you don't mind. I love a stat, by the way, and being in sales, I love the conversion numbers. There's nothing wrong with using the same phrase the other way around. I think people do it all the time, but both emphasize really clear why it's important. 6 hours a day online on average. I'm sure I spend 9 on Zoom alone, so I'm not sure about that. And the quality, it's funny about the 3 triangle. I definitely fit into that category about price. For me, it's speed. You know, I use Amazon probably every other day, and I'm not joking, a couple of times a week at least, because I might pay a bit extra, but it's here. It comes to me. It comes to me, and I can get what I need quickly. So the price does go out the window a little bit. So really interesting. Thank you. And we'll come to the questions after my little bit. So the great thing about hosting is nobody does an introduction about me, which is great. I like that. So that no, don't jump in now. That's great. So yeah, so I'm just going to do a short bit about technology really, and about how our technology can help with law firm and client collaboration. So hopefully you can see my screen. So I am Chris, so I'm Global Account Director with Fliplet, and just very briefly, Fliplet are a prefabricated app production company. So we basically help firms, and 90% of our clients are law firms of all sizes around the world. We help firms, particularly law firms, create beautiful apps that make the companies efficient and help with cost savings, etc. But also the key bit here is as well, we help their clients, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So what is the current challenge? I think my 3 fellow panelists have covered most of this already, but when I was looking at it, and certainly looking at how law firms deal with their clients right now, you've got to collaborate with your clients. So collaboration relies upon communication. Well, yeah, absolutely. You've also got to understand the requirements, and that's harder right now with the situation we're in. Annual, quarterly, monthly, even just ad hoc face-to-face meetings with clients are not happening, or they're very difficult right now. I speak to 2, 3, 4 law firms every single day, and the majority are not having face-to-face meetings with their clients. So it's difficult to do that collaboration. And then it comes to the internals. Furloughing of staff and a reduction in hours has increased workloads. So people, again, within firms are doing more than one job. A lot will say they've always been doing more than one job, but now it's 2 or 3, or they've got to wear 4 hats during the day. And then budgets, I also do the renewals for Fliplet. So budgets are being squeezed constantly. There's a lot of uncertainty. Not only are we in a pandemic, the economy is going through unprecedented times as well. So it's a massive challenge. So in this situation, how can you accommodate client requests when you also want to open up new lines of communication and offer really good levels of assistance and support? Really what Rachel was talking about, the client journey. How can we make that client journey really good? And also, a question I want you to think about during the next few minutes is this a chance to offer new services, new solutions to your clients? So let's just understand quickly the individual parts of the problem. So what is the current landscape? Well, as I said, no face-to-face meetings, too many emails. You must be like me. I'm enjoying the webinar a lot, but I keep looking at my watch thinking there's probably another 10 that have just come in I've got to deal with when I finish the webinar. There's going to be lots of emails. There's far too many emails now because there's more than ever. Remote working, as great as it is, and I think Robert talked about how the change has happened with law firms and remote working. It still poses challenges and makes it difficult. Limited developer resource. So a lot of the firms, again, I've spoken to some of the IT resource after the initial part of getting people working remotely have been furloughed. So actually, they might have had limited resource before, now it's even less. And the requirements are hard to get. We said you can't have face-to-face meetings with your clients. So it's harder to pin clients down to have calls with you. Calls overrun, so then they just don't turn up. It's not like I've got to travel for a meeting, so I'm really committed to it. And then how do you keep that engagement? So again, going back to Rachel's piece about the journey, it's keeping the clients really engaged. So what are the options available? Well, Zoom meetings, and I'd have put a massive cross on that if I could. We're having enough Zoom meetings as it is. Let's not keep doing Zoom meetings, yeah? Email updates. I've said too many emails. We don't want more of that. Shared docs, they work, absolutely. And I know we're saying do away with printers. I agree with that. I'm glad you didn't say faxes, Robert, because if there's faxes still in existence, then I'm out of here. But shared docs, they're great, but again, it's the process behind them. It's not really a solution. Outsource, well, that's more cost, and you're losing control, and there's probably training got to be done to train somebody up. I've put question marks against online forms and phone and text because they can both work in some instances, but it depends what solution you're trying to come up with for your client and what you're trying to collaborate on. So really the only one that gets the tick for me, and it's not just because of the products I work with, but the only thing really you can do is look at a custom solution, look at things a little bit differently. So what you should do though is take a look at what you're doing currently. So what are the current process? So understand the historical requests. So what requests were you getting from your clients? How has the relationship worked in the past? This is a great chance to improve the processes you've already got. Don't worry about the solution right now, but you can certainly look at improving the processes that are already in place. Discuss what information would be useful to have. So how great to go to a client, be proactively, let them have a portal or whatever, somewhere where they can go and get access, get documents, get information when they want it. Not having to come to a law firm, come to a BD team, associate every single time they want a bit of information or an update on a client matter. That's going to save time both to the client and the firm. And bear in mind, and I think this is something that we haven't spoken about too much today, and I've spoken about with clients a lot over the last couple of months, is your clients are going through the same situation we're going through right now. Everybody in the world is, yeah, we're all in the same situation. So they want to save time as well. And then identify what information can be gathered quickly and easily. The key thing, if you're going to change any process, the key thing, and especially now when it is harder, and if you're going to come up with a custom solution, is have you got content? You know, if you want to provide a new platform for them to go and get information from, have you got the content? Can you update it? How often does it need updating? And pick, and Viv mentioned as well about easy wins, quick wins. Pick the quick wins, because they're gonna hit you really quickly and help you really quickly. And then understand how it can be communicated securely. And I think security, certainly with law firms and my year at Fliplet, I've spent too much time talking to InfoSec teams and it goes above my head, but security is absolutely vital, especially if you're talking about client matter, obviously. And then are there particular practice areas that could gain from increased exposure? You know, we deal with practice areas across all practice areas within various law firms, and within certain firms, certain practices will be shouting out for things like this. Is it a crisis management? You know, have you got a cyber assist team that really could do with a better way of communicating now with their clients and give them assistance when a cyber attack happens, or preparing for a cyber attack? So certain firms will have certain practices that jump out, that could really do with the increased exposure right now. So what I wanted to do, and the main bit was really tell you, just to pass on information, what am I seeing? So I've been working with law firms, and Fliplet have been working with law firms for a number of years. I've been working with them very closely over the last year, and certainly during the whole pandemic. So what's been going on during the pandemic? So what I've showed you here is it's a graph of applications that have been produced. Mainly 95%, I'd say, of these have been produced by law firms on our portal for various reasons. What is the use case? So that's the total number that have been produced. So some numbers that jump out at me. Health and fitness. Although it's a small number, we hadn't seen anything. We hadn't seen law firms talk to us about health and fitness really until this kicked off. And health and fitness, I'm a bit of a freak. I wasn't going to mention the marathon. I promised I wouldn't, but I am doing the virtual London Marathon this Sunday. God help me. But before the pandemic kicked off, we hadn't talked about health and fitness with our clients. They're talking about, you know, psychology as well. They're talking about mental health, not just keeping fit. It's apps to help the law firm staff and clients cope with working remotely. So that's a big increase. That number also, it is small there. Some of them are included within the second from top internal comms. Some of the internal comms apps we've produced are also including mental health information and quizzes and things to keep people engaged. And that's definitely a change. Another change is idea creation. You know, I've not heard, I didn't hear in this webinar, I think it's the first one I've not heard the lack of water cooler moments, because I hear it on every webinar. We're not having those water cooler moments where some great ideas come out. So how are law firms coming up with ideas, not just for themselves, but for their clients? So there's a much greater emphasis for us, we've seen, on idea creation platforms. And actually I had nearly a 2-hour call early today with a big firm that are putting together a platform for their clients to create ideas within their companies. So that is definitely a grower. But the three main areas definitely that have gone through the roof, I'd say, and keep me very busy on a daily basis. Return to office and process management. Return to office is all about how do we manage getting our staff back in buildings. Although if you're in the UK now, how do you get them back out the building and back home? Because we're not eating out to help out anymore. We're staying in to protect ourselves. But that's been massive. And we produced a return to office template in about 2 weeks. It's the quickest template we've ever turned around, because we had a couple of US firms banging at me continuously that they needed something to get back into the office. But process management, and I'm going to show an example of a process management app from a non-law firm in a minute. And the reason for that is I've shown that app to a number of law firms that are now using the processes within it to pass on to their own internal departments and to their clients. So helping their clients dealing with processes that they're struggling with because they're working remote. It might not be gaining them revenue direct, but the referrals they're getting on the back of it for different practices is amazing. And process management, if I do the same webinar in 2 months' time, I think it will jump above crisis management because it is absolutely taking off. But by far the biggest change I've seen, by far, and I'm glad, Viv, when you said earlier, one of the critical things, I was a bit worried when the pie chart came up. I'm glad you had in vital business development. The biggest by far is business development. And these are apps that basically you can see 2/3 really, sorry, it's a third above the second in the list. Client-facing business development apps. And these can be anything from, a crisis response app that basically teaches a client what to do in the case of a cyber attack. It does an example of a cyber attack, so everybody works out a scenario and plays through it. So actually it's happening now and I press a big red button and work. But it can be an information portal. So it could be information on, and I'm going to show you again some examples in a second, it could be information on a certain practice area. So pensions, advice on pensions. but that links in then to, oh, right, that's fantastic information. I've got what I need here. All right, more information, or now instigate a matter. Press a button and through to the law firm. All of a sudden, you've got work from just an information app. So it's a massive change, and it shows, doesn't it? It showed me right now, even in the 12 months I've been here, the shift is massive from internal apps to help law firms become more efficient, save money in using IT resource, into actually loving our clients, giving our clients value adds that could add more value to our bottom line as well. And then just to give you some examples and the result of what I've been working on over many months with our clients, these are all apps that have been produced by our clients with our help. So BCLP, it's a client portal app, and really it's about giving clients information on what's going on, latest news about what's going on, but also different practice information, how to get in touch with the partners of each practice, the associates of each practice. They can download documents from within the app. So again, I've not got to email in. I've not got to pick up the phone to get the information I need. This is a UK utilities company, and this is the process management one. This company had probably done about 25 or 30 apps in the 2 years they've been with us, and they use them all on a daily basis to manage their internal processes, and it's changed the way they do business. Over the last 6 months, I started talking about, and I think my boss wondered what I was doing when I was on a call with a law firm, and he joined the call and I was talking about one of these apps. But it's because the processes involved, these are fleet mileage and hazard spot and near misses. But you talk to law firms and their clients, they're dealing with processes that can fit into this mold, and it's a great value add. And again, you have a call to action. You know, you've gone through this process. What do I do at the end? You call us, yeah, you email us. This is who you need to speak to. And then again, just one more non-law firm before I show you a few law firm ones. Deloitte Dubai do a VAT in the GCC. It's a very complicated, if you know anything about VAT, and Viv probably knows all about this, very complicated system about VAT in the GCC. It's a fantastic information portal. And the reason I've put it on there is, bear in mind as well, you want to help clients and your own firms, not just in the UK and the US. You might want to help them in Germany or in places like Dubai and the Far East, like this app. So this has been converted into Arabic as well as English. We've got Dawn Raid apps that have been converted into German and French because it's global. Think about your clients that are not just English speaking, not just at UK and US. And then a few just to finish on. This is a report app, all automated, that a US firm do on advertising litigation. And they've got a number of their clients that log into this app on a daily basis and see the latest information and what they need to know. They get news on the latest webinars. They give it to their clients free, but again, it's a hook that keeps them going back to them. They're not going to talk to any of the firm for their advertising litigation issues. Evershed's Global Employment Pensions Guide. If you've not downloaded it, get onto the Apple Store, the Google Store. You can look at this and go through it and see the full app. And I know two people mentioned earlier about being Apple geeks. You want to be in a firm like Fliplet when you don't have an Apple phone. I am seen as an outcast here because I'm Android all the way. I'm not going to change now because I like being the black sheep. But the Global Employment Pensions Guide it's a full-featured guide on that area of the business. But again, you know, you can see it's a true business development app because it shows the full capabilities. It's got news feeds, so it tells you exactly the latest information, and then contact us, come to us, talk to us. Again, it's tying people in. But their clients absolutely love it because they don't have to go anywhere else. It's a one-stop shop. And then finally, I had to do something on COVID, clearly. I can't tell you the amount of apps I've seen on our platform that we've not even been involved in that have been produced on mobile and web to do with COVID. Blank Roam in the States were one of the first to launch it, and they were one of the firms that were hassling me late at night to devise a return to office app, so I gave in and did it. But the COVID-19 state tracker, they pretty much did on their own, and it's fantastic. Still up to date now. You can go on the web, you can click on any state, and it will tell you the latest news, the latest information of how you've got to be compliant with the coronavirus news. So it's a whirlwind, and we have gone at pace, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how really technology can help you stay in touch with your clients, not hard selling, but actually make them feel loved. But you're going to get revenue out of it. You're going to get new streams out of it at the end. And then you'll get the slides after, just a couple of our webinars that are coming up soon as well. So a little bit like your offer, Rachel. All our webinars are free. We're doing quite a few right now. These two are really key for me. Our Return to Office app is being updated, so it's a great one for you to have a look. But virtual events are obviously not really happening right now, but a lot of events are going virtual. And we've seen a lot of virtual event apps turn up, but they just seem to be event apps with virtual in front of them. We're trying to do something very, very different. So we'd love you to join us for our webinars. So that's it. That's me. That's Fliplet. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll take some questions. So let's, in fact, Rachel, do you want to, are we going to invite everybody in?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let's bring everybody in. So again, we're happy to stick around for another half an hour or so. So I think we're going to bring everybody into the same room. I've got a couple more questions to ask that have come in anyway. And then if you've got any more, please feel free to chip in with them.
It takes a while to do it, so.
Well, it's like they're forming an orderly queue, Rachel, to get in.
Yeah.
It's very British.
This is where people think, oh no, I need to do my hair.
Yeah. John, your picture worked a treat. I was jealous when your picture was on, so I'm glad you've got rid of that. So while everybody's joining, we'll give it one more second. I think nearly.
A couple left to do.
Yeah, there is. Give it another couple of minutes.
Last one is Vanessa with a V. There we go. That's everybody. Perfect. So I've got a couple of questions in the chat already that we've held on to. So Viv, I've got one for you. So I'd be interested in Viv's views about potential risks from accountancy firms moving into the legal sector. Part of Big Four strategy for some years, but could regional firms follow, and what could that mean?
Right, well, thank you for that. 'Cause as you probably know, they've already started. I think we've had accountants moving into that space for quite a while. So I think we have to be prepared for, now we've got the opening up of the allowing a solicitor to work for another business. So we are seeing accountants employing solicitors to deliver legal solutions. At the moment, it's been quite moderate, but I think we are seeing certainly private client work and some other stuff as well. So yes, I think they will come into the market, and they're going to probably, because a lot of the work we do is admin driven, they'll function it in a very different way. But they can employ a solicitor who is regulated by the SRA as an individual, not the firm themselves. So we don't have a level playing field if you're SRA regulated.
Brilliant, thank you, Viv. I've got another one which is probably for Viv or Robert, so feel free, either of you, to jump in. So I love the point that Robert has made about making the office the place for creativity and collaboration. When do you think law firms will see the power of personal development again? And it ends with bringing in brilliant people like Rachel and me, from Judy. I agree, Judy.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to your people, doesn't it? If you want to invest in your people, because actually it's your people who give the service that Rachel was talking about. So it's that it's that virtual circle that get the people engaged. They will give brilliant experience and service, and you'll get more repeat business. And picking up on your points, Chris, using their ideas. So Judy, I think enlightened law firms will and are keeping their development going. I was speaking to one firm today who are looking, not in this area, but who are looking at introducing mentoring and coaching for their younger partners, because they recognize the value of doing that now. It's like anything. If you just look at cost and you slash personal development, you slash learning and development, you slash marketing, BD, yes, you will survive, but you won't thrive when we come out of this.
Yeah.
And I think the other crucial thing is that budgets have been slashed anyway by the government. And marketing is a great example where most businesses I speak to, their marketing budget is dramatically below because of they're not paying for conferences, they're not paying for travel mainly. You know, they're not paying for a lawyer to go up to London and have overnight accommodation and attend £1,000 conference. So actually, what I say is don't just bank that saving, but use that saving wisely. Invest that saving in areas where you're going to get a return now during this period of transition.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, Robert? I was thinking when you were talking about recruitment as well, rang a bell with me because we're growing. We're a small firm. We're growing, and we've actually recruited 3-4 people during lockdown. And I was going to ask you the question of, is it? I sort of want to answer it, but I want you to answer it. Is it worth the risk? There's more risk recruiting now, clearly, because you've got to do it remotely. You know, you're not going to have that face-to-face. You're not going to have the induction that you'd have. Normally, we'd have a good 3-month induction period. That's hard to do now when you're remote. It's very different to get the engagement. Is it worth the risk recruiting now with that change in how you've got to induct?
I think it is, because I pick up on some of what Viv was saying, that there are some very good firms that are struggling with some very good lawyers, or the lawyers are thinking those firms are going to struggle, or they don't see a future in those firms for themselves. So you've got to be careful, and you've got to do as much due diligence as you can, but there's some great opportunities to pick up some absolutely brilliant lawyers who are either worried about their future or worried about the imminent future. Would you agree, Viv?
I certainly would. In fact, some firms that I know have recruited mainly at partner level. So where one firm has made someone who's business development director redundant, they've been picked up by top 100 law firm. And it's just focusing on the partner that comes in that can bring work with them. And I think they've recruited partners. I think where we are seeing more redundancies is in the non-fee earner area. But I think certainly partner, good quality solicitors, there'll always be a home for them. So I don't want to paint a picture that I think it is doom and gloom for everybody. It's not. It's dealing with the challenges we've got now. Most law firms are actually more cash rich now than they've been for a long time. So they've got lots of cash in the bank. The big question is, what do we do with it? How do we invest it? Where do we go? And if we are seeing a second spike and we're seeing recession, does that mean we're going to start to see a downturn in work again? So I'm non-exec of a couple of law firms, and I was doing a virtual call at lunchtime today with the partners. And we've opened up the office in London, but we're now talking about closing it again. So it's quite difficult to know. And I've been interviewing virtually for an FD for a law firm this last week. It's very difficult to interview a financial director. Yes, you've got the CV. Yes, you can see them. It's not the same as doing it face to face. But I think those opportunities are out there for the right people.
And I think it's being more diligent, isn't it? I think the recruitment we've done, you know, we're not a law firm, but the recruitment we've done, we're very serious positions, and we've had to be more diligent. We've had to be far more diligent in the calls. We've added on a couple of extra calls because it is different. You're not getting that face-to-face. You're not getting that touchy-feely meeting. So one other question, just to finish from the ones that were put in the chat earlier, and this is for you, Rachel. So can we have some more examples of demonstrating purpose? So probably just a couple more examples of how you do it.
Yeah, I think some of the obvious ones are linked to things like the environment, plastics, you know, planting trees. So I know somebody who had an initiative where they were saving on their stationery. So picking up Robert's point about printing, when they saved a certain amount of stationery, yet they used that money that they would have spent on paper for printing and ink on planting trees. So it's that sort of thing that just gets your heart, you know. Being able to, what's the company that makes shoes? I can't remember their name now, but you know, a portion of all the funds go off to the country where they make the shoes, and to help other people, you know, helping young people, you know, giving maybe members of your team half a day a month to support young people, students, graduates, people, you know, aspiring for their first, second stage of their career. So yeah, I think it
Yeah,
doesn't
and
only have to be charitable, but
Mm.
it needs to be driven by heart.
Chris, picking up on, your point about health apps, a really good way of showing purpose, which then plays into the recruitment market, is, during the full lockdown, we were encouraged to have our hours exercise, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I've spoken to a couple of firms who are looking at introducing to their working day, this was when they were coming back to the office, the ability for staff just to take a period of time for exercise, not their lunch hour, but a period during the working hour to exercise. That's showing purpose, because it's really showing that you're caring about the well-being of your staff, and you're actually, again, you're empowering them. If you want to go for a walk at 10 o'clock for 20 minutes, go for a walk at 10 o'clock. You've got used to doing that whilst you've been in lockdown. Why try and stop things like that when we get back into office mode?
And that's a great point, Robert. And that is exactly what one firm did, actually. Exactly that. They created a bit of a challenge between multi-offices, and they gave their staff time to do stuff. If they wanted to go and do a yoga class during the day, go and do the yoga class. If you could at the time, it was very limited. You could walk, you could run, you could do exercise, you could do what you wanted to do. You could do some mindfulness for an hour. And then they log it and they have a bit of gamification to play off against teams. And I think you're right. I think that's an amazing way of demonstrating purpose. I think one thing I've done as well in the past with when I've run sales teams, one thing I've always done with sales teams is say, I want to see an hour blocked in your diary every week where you're gonna self-develop. And it can be anything, and I did have people go and play badminton. Bit odd, but it took him away from his job for an hour, and he was developing his mind. He switched his mind off for an hour. And I think that comes back to your point, Rafe, about that. That's adding purpose for the staff as well. So fantastic. That is all the questions. I mean, we're in the room all together now as well. So if people do want to come off mute and ask a question live to any of the panel, please feel free to do so. And obviously, if Rachel, Viv, or Robert have got anything, any of the questions they want to ask each other as well, please go ahead.
Everyone's like that. Oh no!
I know I've got a whole list.
I've got one for Rachel.
Brilliant.
And in a way, it picks up a bit on Judy's point. So I think we all were looking forward, and I know John was definitely looking forward to business development back in person, in the room with people. And clearly that's taken a backward step. So how do we really engage with our staff to embrace online business development in whatever form it is for the next 6 months? Because it is going to be more the future than a temporary thing.
Yeah, good question. I actually think that doing BD over Zoom is more successful than doing it face to face when you look at the grand scheme of it, because doing it on Zoom means that you're more structured, you're more prepared, the meeting is quicker, there's less opportunity for somebody to think, well, I do this all the time, I'll just wing it, it'll be okay. I think on Zoom you are much more likely to have done your homework, to be prepared, to know what questions you're going to ask. And for that reason, I see that the outcome is more successful, that conversion rates can go up. So yeah, it should be a positive, really.
And I think there's I'd add to that, if you don't mind, the personal touch as well. I'm cheating today. Me and Vanessa are cheating today with Zoom backgrounds. But my clients, funnily enough, the majority of my clients now prefer it when I don't have my background on, because we see into each other's lives a little bit. The problem is my wine rack is going down and down behind me, so they see how much wine I'm drinking. But it really has helped. I mean, I deal with a lot of clients in the States that I can't go and visit. Now I know them, I've got to know them over the last year, and now I can't go and visit them. But I see their kids running around in the background. They have to pause to go and answer the door to an Amazon delivery, and then I do the next time. It's brought a whole personal touch to it it's certainly made my life easier. And actually, the meetings are more enjoyable. They're more enjoyable because you have a personal touch in most meetings. And I feel I've got to, over the 30 odd years I've been doing sales and business development, I think I've got to know clients better this year than any other, because of the way we're communicating now. It's very different.
You're right, Chris. I think it was actually on a call with you and Viv the other day. Viv was, I don't want to drop you in it, Viv. You were about 2 minutes late. And so Chris and I, who'd never met, never done anything other than exchange one email, we were already getting on like best buddies. And you were only 2 minutes late. And it was because we were engaged. We were talking about each other's backgrounds.
You've got stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any wine though, Chris.
It's gone. There is a few left, but not many. Not many. I need to restock, clearly, or keep the green screen on. But it's right, and I think it's just made it easier. I've got a connection with numerous clients now that I would not have got before. So it's fantastic. Brilliant. Yeah. Anything else, guys? Anybody from the audience want to chip in with another tough question for one of the other panelists?
Well, actually, I've got another question for Rachel. On the back of you, the comments you make, Rachel, I think are absolutely right regarding meetings with clients and on Zoom rather than face to face. But how are you finding generating the leads in the first place? Because we've had that element taken away from us completely. The networking. I struggle with networking on Zoom in the way that you'd have networked in a physical room. Yes, it works, but if you've got a round table discussion and you can hook onto a couple of people and pick up with them separately, but it's not the same. Meeting's less of a problem, but it's that starting point in the first place.
Yeah, good question, James. I think when we used to go out to networking rooms and there was 20, 30, 40 people, or maybe it was a smaller thing, but it was face to face, there was some networking that was done by accident, in that you just so happened to find somebody that might have been the right person. Whereas networking on Zoom, there's no accident, it has to be on purpose. And so I think generating the leads at the moment needs to be very, very intentional. So you need to have done some research, you need to use things like LinkedIn to know exactly who you're looking for. And then you need to leverage the people that you already know to be able to create that connection. So for me, it's like when you throw a stone in a pond and you get that ripple effect. We've all got our first line network, the people that we absolutely trust and rely on. And in times like this, we have to leverage that first ripple of the pond and ask them about who they've got in their first ripple. And gradually the rings go out in the pond and we cast our net a little bit wider. But I do go back to the point about it has to be on purpose. We have to have our repertoire of questions. We have to be naturally curious, not go out, with that shark fin look of I need a client, because people can smell that a mile off. They can smell it in a room and they can smell it on Zoom as well. So we just need to be very, very natural and use relationships.
There's a number of organizations out there that can actually help promote those type of services to a LinkedIn platform of yours. They'll get you meetings with particular clients, particular types of people. You can target them. They charge a fee for it, obviously, but and there's also emailers that will send out to a database to generate leads, to create Zoom meetings. So there are ways and means of creating that point of contact at the beginning. It's just doing it differently. And thinking now we have to go to a different, maybe that source of work is something that needs to be done. That's the way that you would generate some leads and be very specific and do exactly what Rachel said.
I think there's a misconception, I think, with social selling and social media, that you can just write a really clever post and put it on LinkedIn and suddenly the phone will start ringing off the hook. It won't. That's absolute rubbish. And anybody that tells you that it's all about putting a post out there and suddenly the phone ringing, it doesn't happen that way. All the good stuff happens in the DMs. The problem is that the people that head to the DMs to do their lead generation make the mistake of sending the wrong email first. They send a long introduction. Let me tell you all about me. There's 3 paragraphs. Let me give you a link to my website. There's another link. Let me tell you, here's a little blog I wrote. There's another link. You might want to download this PDF. There's another link. Well, by the time I've opened that email and anybody has opened a DM like that, you just say, oh, sales pitch. the best way to generate leads in the DMs is to do a one-liner. One-liner. I've just been reading your latest post. It really resonated with me because of what do you think about? That's it. You'll get a response. And once the conversation begins, just like a networking room, that's all you need.
Yeah. That's really interesting, Rachel. I said the same thing, very similar to we've got a couple of SDRs that are graduates that started with us a few months ago, and or just at the start of the year. And I said the same thing to them last week, funnily enough. They said, you've got years of experience in sales. What should I do different now to reach people to get to have a call with me? Nothing. Keep it simple. Keep it easy. I get loads on LinkedIn because of my past as well. I get every day 5 or 6 direct messages that I reply because I'm nice, but I reply just saying I'm not interested. I've not read it all. You've lost me in the first. You're right. First 3 paragraphs, you've lost me. It's too much. Just tell me you've seen the webinar. Webinar was great, Chris. I've just got a couple of questions. All right, I'm on. I'll talk to you. And then you try and sell to me, and you've got me already anyway. But it's doing it the right way. But yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm conscious we're bang on time at 6 o'clock. So unless anybody's got any final questions, anybody want to raise their hand or shout out one final question, or we'll wrap it up for today.
Just one comment. Really, really good, guys. Really valuable. Thank you.
Thanks.
Brilliant, John. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask Viv? Viv, have you got 5 minutes after this for me to speak to you and ask you something?
Yes, but
Even 2 minutes.